wealthy men or women who are marrying somebody that doesn't have significant wealth, or even if they do, generally need a premarital agreement. So they're clear on what they're going to share and what they're not going to share. And a premarital agreement does not necessarily just benefit the wealthy party. It can benefit the non-wealthy party in a way that they need a prenup too, and that's a common misconception. People who don't have money don't realize that they need a premarital agreement just as much as their wealthy fiancé, because unless they have a premarital agreement, there may never be any community property.
This is something we've seen time and time again, where, especially in second marriages, one spouse, let's say the husband, has significant wealth from a family business or trust. And under the law, all of that is already his separate property. It's separate property because he owned it before marriage. So, and that's going to stay generally his separate property during the marriage. So if he's not really working, he's sort of semi-retired, that marriage could last 10 years and there will never be any community property. So that wife, in order to be protected, she really needs the prenup to say, hey, you know, if we are married 10 years, I do expect something out of this. Maybe the family residence, maybe some payment on the exit of divorce. So this really is benefiting that other spouse. And it does make for a stronger relationship, because otherwise there's such an imbalance of power there, where one spouse has all the money and could end the marriage at any point in time and basically put the other spouse out in the street. Even though they might never would have any intention on doing that, that affects the relationship. There's too much control for one party to have. And so by guaranteeing that there will be some payment to the other spouse at the end of the marriage, can create some more certainty, some more trust, and build a stronger relationship.
One of the situations we often see are parents who want the premarital agreement for their children. They have a trust fund. In California, that property is already separate, but the parents want an assurance that their child's spouse is not going to be entitled to some of that property they will inherit. Another group of people we represent are seniors whose adult children are interested in their parents having a premarital agreement, because they want to make sure, the children want to make sure they get their rightful inheritance, and their parent's spouse is not going to acquire all the property they were expecting. It's not always a pleasant discussion, because it often pits the children against the new spouse, but it's one that we have often and is an important situation where people need premarital agreements.
And it's important to get that stuff out on the table early in the relationship, because otherwise it can sour the whole thing. I mean, if the children, maybe the adult children from a prior marriage, you know, are distrustful of this new spouse because they think that they're going to be disinherited, at least if there's a premarital agreement, we've set those boundaries, we've guaranteed what the new spouse is going to get, what the kids in the prior marriage are going to get, and that can avoid conflict in the future and end up in a stronger marriage.
It sounds like a lot of the issues are not only legal, but they're psychological, they're emotional. They create a lot of stress for the parties. How do we weave that into our premarital agreements?
This is the most important part of our practice. We're attorneys and counselors at law, and I do a lot more of the counseling part than the attorney part. These are interpersonal relationships, the closest relationships that two people can have. And it's important to respect that and understand what we're doing. So many attorneys, they're used to fighting in court, and when they start negotiating this agreement, they treat it like a court battle, and it can really ruin the relationship. So it's really understanding that both sides have needs, and unless both sides' needs are fulfilled, they're not going to have a strong relationship. And that's part of our job, is to really facilitate the relationship. That's what we're brought in to do, is help these two people have a strong relationship with some legal boundaries.
It sounds like we would negotiate a premarital agreement different than we would any other kind of divorce matter. Would you say that's accurate?
It is. I mean, it's a prenup is sort of like getting divorced in advance, and so. But we have two people that at that moment like each other, rather at the end of a divorce sort of hate each other.
So one of our goals is to preserve the relationship, at the same time get the best results for our clients.